Hey everyone, what's going well? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome to my channel. Today's video is all about reframing negative self-talk and getting your inner critic to just shut the f*** up. Think of this video as an unofficial part 2 to my previous video on reframing your reality to reshape your reality. I'll link it on the screen right now, so just check it out if you haven't yet. As I mentioned before, reframing is a way that we can alter our negative perceptions on life stressors in order to create a more positive life. In this case, reframing our negative self-talk allows us to shift our attention away from our inner critic and instead consciously choose a more supportive narrative led by our inner coach. Your inner critic is the voice in your head that doubts you, judges you, and convinces you that you're not good enough. When we make a mistake, fail, get rejected, or don't live up to certain standards, how often do we beat ourselves up and believe certain harmful narratives to be true about ourselves? I'm not good enough. I can't do anything right. I'm too slow. I could never do that, etc. This internal dialogue, if left unchecked, can cause some serious damage to your mental health and can prevent you from pursuing the life that you truly want to live. When we as humans talk to ourselves this way and believe certain harmful narratives, we tend to look for any evidence to prove to ourselves that these beliefs are true and disregard any evidence that proves otherwise. For example, this is sort of embarrassing for me to admit because it's something that I'm currently still working through, but I have a deeply rooted belief that if people get close to me or if they know too much about me, that they won't like me, which is silly because I do have some great quality connections with people in my life and I think I'm a cool ass person, not gonna lie. But somewhere in childhood, that belief became embedded in my thought patterns and it affects my behavior and actions around people to this day. And as a result, I'm not the best at nurturing certain connections. If I've had a conversation with you and the next time I see you, you're not showering me with love, then I automatically take that as evidence that you don't like me. And I retreat. Again, something that I am very aware of and I am working on. And honestly, even sharing this now, I'm just like, wow, it's so silly. But when you leave these thoughts go unchecked, it easily builds up in your head and gets so much heavier if you avoid it. It's honestly amazing what we choose to fixate on. So why do we? Why do we continue to justify certain negative beliefs? For me personally, I've carried a lot of shame from my situation growing up, which I can get into details another time, but I'm still working on proving to myself that I am worthy of great things. I came across an article the other day, and I'll link it down below, talking about different ways that we may justify negative self-talk. There were 5 reasons, and I'll list them out. So when justifying negative self-talk, you may think, 1, I'm just being honest with myself. 2, it will prevent me from having an inflated ego. 3, it will prepare me for future disappointment or hurt. 4, it's an accurate reflection of who I am as a person. Or 5, I deserve it. So let's go through these real quick. So 1, I'm just being honest with myself. So to reiterate what was mentioned in the article, it is important to be honest with ourselves and to explore any mistakes that we have made and hold ourselves accountable. This allows us to figure out what to avoid and what to do differently next time. But if we do so in a way that is treating ourselves harshly and putting ourselves down, it significantly impairs our ability to take away certain lessons from our experience and grow from it. 2, it will prevent me from having an inflated ego. If you're in a position where you're being overly critical of yourself, chances are having an inflated ego isn't a risk factor for you. I also want to suggest to redefine what ego means to you. Our ego has both positive and negative aspects to it. Having a healthy ego means having a strong sense of self, and it allows us to achieve great things. So honestly, inflate that ego in a positive and nurturing way, of course. 3, it will prepare me for future disappointment and hurt. Okay, straight up, this justification is self-sabotage. Instead of setting ourselves up for success, this sets us up to make more mistakes and undercuts our confidence. Truth is, failure is a part of life, and it's honestly a great thing. If you're failing, that means you're trying. And it teaches us to learn from our mistakes. Learning how to bounce back from failure is such an invaluable skill if you want to succeed. 4, it's an accurate reflection of who I am as a person. Whatever situation or event that occurred for you to harshly criticize yourself is just a reflection of your actions, and it doesn't mean it has to be a reflection of who you are. For example, if you make the statement, "I'm such an idiot," because you accidentally used salt when baking cookies instead of sugar. That actually happened to me once. That mistake isn't a reflection of the essence of who you are. And let's say that you make that statement, "Oh, I'm such an idiot," and you kind of laugh at yourself and you didn't mean it in a harmful way. Words are still very powerful, so just be mindful of how you're talking to yourself, even in silly moments like that, because our subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what's good, what's bad, what's a joke, what's not. So just be careful. Lastly, 5, I deserve it. When using this justification, ask yourself, if a friend of mine made this mistake and felt bad about it, would I harshly criticize them and make hurtful comments towards them? Hopefully your answer is no, never. And if it is, then ask yourself, then why talk to myself this way? Why treat myself this way? We're all human, and we need to accept that human error occurs. We're not perfect. The best we can do is have compassion towards ourselves and learn from our mistakes. So how do we tell our inner critic to shut the up and chill out? First, it helps to notice the critic in the first place. Because our thoughts are so automatic and happen so rapidly, it's easy to not notice before we're moving on to the next thought. Slowing down and noticing when our thoughts are filling us with negative emotions is a sure sign that our inner critic is present. Secondly, it helps to separate the critic from you. You are not your thoughts. When you acknowledge that the critic isn't a part of your authentic self, and once you separate it, it'll be way easier to free yourself from its influence. The critic is simply a voice that we have internalized based on outside influences, criticisms, expectations, and standards. Third, replace the critic. Focus on growing an inner voice that acts as your own best friend or inner coach, and start to acknowledge the good things about yourself. When the critic says, "I'm an idiot," replace this statement with, "Sometimes I do smart things," and list out as many examples as you can to support the statement. Build up your evidence in favor of your inner coach. Don't be afraid to challenge the inner critic. The more you debunk your inner critic, the stronger that your inner coach will be. And finally, reframe your internal dialogue. Consciously choose to avoid absolutes like the words never and always. Using language like that leaves no room for change. Instead of saying, "People never listen to me," reframe it by saying, "There are certain people in my life who don't seem to listen to me." Another way to reframe our internal dialogue is to use forward-focused language. Instead of saying, "I can't," say, "I can learn." Instead of saying, "I'm not," say, "I am." This change can encourage you to take action and move in a direction that aligns you to achieve certain things instead of limiting you and stopping you from trying at all. And last tip, dilute the negativity by changing the intensity of your language. Instead of saying, "This is the worst," say, "This is challenging." Or instead of "I hate," say, "I really don't like." From there, it's easier to challenge your inner coach. All right, that is all I have today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some value from this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that like, and if you haven't already, subscribe. It really helps me out. I greatly appreciate it. Until next time, bye.